Kirby in the Forgotten Land is a game that many people believe would never actually be a thing. Kirby in the third dimension. For years, we all wondered why this little guy insisted on being limited to only 2 dimensions. But in 2022, wait, hold on, 2022? Has it really been 2 years at this point? That's actually insane. But I guess over 2 years ago at this point, Kirby in the Forgotten Land released on Nintendo Switch, and it ended up being an amazing experience. I was pretty convinced that nothing would pass Planet Robobot for me as my #1 favorite Kirby game, but somehow Forgotten Land did just that. Kirby in the Forgotten Land was probably one of my favorite titles to release that year, now that I think about it. The only other titles that come to mind would be Xenoblade 3 and Sonic Frontiers, both of which are great titles. Being in the third dimension means that Kirby's moveset needed a little bit of tweaking. Main thing being his jump. The guy can still float around as much as he wants, but now he doesn't gain verticality when you mash the button. This change was definitely needed to avoid trivializing the new level design, so it's one I support. In general, Kirby controls like an absolute dream. He moves so smoothly, I never once felt like I was not in complete control of him. Compared to a game like Sonic Frontiers, a game that I love, but there are many times where I do feel like Sonic gets away from me completely and I have no idea what I did wrong. Long story short, Kirby's controls are smooth as butter. To go along with these smooth controls, we have a pretty decent selection of copy abilities to play around with. It's a smaller selection compared to something like Return to Dreamland, much smaller in fact, at least on paper. In this game, the returning copy abilities are Sword, Hammer, Fire, Ice, Cutter, Bomb, Tornado, Sleep, Needle, and Crash. This time the only new copy abilities are Ranger and Drill. Ranger is very fun once you upgrade it. Drill isn't my favorite and it's kinda awful in combat, but it can be used in the environment, allowing Kirby to drill underground to avoid enemies and other obstacles. Unlike in previous games, your copy abilities can actually be upgraded in Forgotten Land, most of which can be upgraded 3 times with a couple exceptions. Crash and Sleep can only be upgraded twice, and Sword can be upgraded 4 times. Let me tell you, the Morpho Knight Sword copy ability is so overpowered. This game's version of the True Arena was very easy with this thing on my side. It heals you as you deal damage, and I may be wrong, but it feels like it has an extended dodge range. You do need to clear the entirety of Isolated Isles, Forgo Dreams, to get this power up. This is the beefy post-game run through all the main stages, now each world being lumped into one big level instead of several bite-sized ones. You collect pieces of this big lion dude's soul after the main antagonist of the game kinda messed him up. It's kinda trippy, kinda cool, just a really cool time overall. It's very much appreciated to be off of Popstar for this adventure. The titular Forgotten Land still has that Kirby art style, but its aesthetic is this post-apocalyptic, abandoned wasteland, and it somehow fits Kirby very well. I know I keep bringing up Sonic Frontiers, but I'm going to use that as an example again. In Sonic Frontiers, they also went for an abandoned type feel. Sonic runs around the Starfall Islands where these ancients once lived, but there feels like there's a bit more of an art style clash here. These islands are going for a realistic approach, but Sonic's models did not change to reflect that, and it ended up clashing. I still love the game, I swear, but with Kirby and the Forgotten Land was created to belong in Kirby's world, and as such, Kirby and all his colorful friends and foes don't look out of place running around this abandoned city or this decrepit mall. With the past bunch of Kirby titles, each one has had a main collectible throughout its levels. Return to Dreamland had the gears, Triple Deluxe had the Sunstones, Planet Robobot had code cubes, you get the idea. This time around, the main collectibles are victims of Waddle Dee trafficking. At the start of the game, a bunch of Waddle Dees are kidnapped and are being forced to work for the main bad guy. As the Star Warrior himself, it falls to you to save these guys. Also, if you don't save enough of them, you literally cannot progress the game. But that wasn't a problem for me, since I always went out of my way to grab every Waddle Dee in a level before moving on to the next one. I can't just leave my homies in a cage, bro. Got to help them out. I should probably mention your partner for this adventure, Alphalin. Honestly, this whole time I thought Alphalin was a girl, but when writing this, I learned that apparently he's a dude. The more you know. But Alphalin is a pretty chill guy. He's blue, flies around, is half of an intergalactic being with the ability to traverse dimensions and enslave an entire population, and is generally a nice guy. He accompanies you on your journey to free the Waddle Dees, take down the evil animal gang thing, and ends up being kidnapped and forced to fuse with his evil half. Also, I think he sacrificed himself, but it's okay, he got better. The lore of the Forgotten Land is really cool. The inhabitants of this world seem to have found a being that came from space, and spent years studying it. At some point, they messed up. They split it in 2, and they somehow lost half of it. Eventually, they realized that the planet is overpopulated, yeet out, and leave the evil alien in a tube. Might have been a bit of an oversight on their part. Anyway, moving on to the challenge level of the game, it doesn't really have one. Even the one thing that usually gives me a hard time, the True Arena, which is a Coliseum now, but same thing, wasn't too bad around this time. Although I did use the Morpho Knight Sword, which is so overpowered it isn't even funny. But in my defense, the game did give me a shiny new toy and I wanted to use it. I imagine if I used literally any other power, it would have been a lot more difficult, but I didn't. Not a complaint, just an observation. In a sequel, if they keep the ability upgrades, I imagine they will change them, so I doubt we'll get one this busted. Kirby in the Forgotten Land is a game I think surprised everyone. Both the fact that it was real, and the fact that it seemed like Kirby had been in 3D forever. Playing this game, it makes you wonder why Hal was so against putting Kirby in 3D for so long. Most of his 2D outings are great, but Forgotten Land I believe stands above as the cream of the crop for Kirby. But that's all for now. I'm hoping I'm your favorite fruit, which is kiwi. But until next time.